This is things you might not have heard. I am Jake Living Payne, and I have in the queue for you today 10 news stories. Read my script wrong. This is Monday, so 10 news stories from the weekend, not from the past day, vetted by U.S. conversation, information, politics, events, and pop culture news. And of course, with that, we're going to give you news that you literally said you wanted to see. These are news stories that you helped us pick out. You vetted them as we posted them all weekend long for you to engage in them. We'll explain the whole vetting process in just a bit. But right now, let's talk about what we're doing forward. Hurricane Milton, Joker 2, Electric Blue, and Taylor Swift all in the news for today. Now, you can find out more about why we do this stuff at our website. This is conversationproject.com. This is the background and all the things and all the love and all the stuff we have behind the scenes, including why you really want to be a part of the Conversation Project. You can also email us with your comments, concerns, and complaints. We get a fair amount of those anytime. It's up to you by going to your email machine and sending an email to the conversation inbox at gmail.com. See how that works? Pretty simple. Not said it so far. We have news for you for the presentation for Monday, October the 7th, 2024, which is going to cover the past weekend, coming from the 4th, the 5th, the 6th, and a little bit of this morning. So let's get into those stories right now. No particular order as they're being presented, but I will give you some context on how they got to where they got to be. Starting off with the biggest deal after the big deal from last week, which we're still continuing talking about stories and the aftermath of Helene. We'll get to that again, if you will. Right now, we're talking about the pre-math, if you will, from Hurricane Milton, which strengthened to a Category 1 storm at this time about yesterday, and expected to hit Florida about Wednesday, Thursday again. So Florida getting another hurricane within about 10 days. This one going towards the Panhandle and going over more toward Tampa and Miami, as opposed to going up north towards Georgia. And this is going to be a big deal, as expected to be about a Cat 3 by the time it actually hits the landfall. And this one's going to move a little bit faster. So this one will probably not hover around so much. And of course, they think it's going to just go over the Panhandle and straight back into the ocean and just kind of live on that way. We will have to see what happens. But right now, as Florida is definitely, and many states are definitely still dealing with Helene and the devastation that hurricane brought us about 2 weeks ago. Another one coming straight for Florida within a very quick span of time, and no one is quite ready for it right now. Let's move on to story number 2, which is Helene in a sense, but it's also politics. Because the headline we have for 2 is both Democrats and Republicans in North Carolina say misinformation is complicating Hurricane Helene efforts. Both sides of the aisle, the parties for Democrats and Republicans in North Carolina and other places as well, but North Carolina specifically for this story, are concerned with the misinformation that is severely complicating the recovery efforts following the Hurricane Helene incident. Officials from both parties have urged the public to stop spreading false information that is undermining efforts to provide aid to those affected by the disaster. Misinformation and conspiracy theories have clouded relief work, leading to confusion and mistrust among residents in the hard-hit areas. Widespread misinformation has further slowed recovery efforts already strained by the catastrophic damage dealt by the hurricane. So when you don't know who to trust, you don't think that people are taking care of you, you're hearing things like FEMA, gamble the money away so they can't really take care of you, or they're only going to cover these pieces but not these pieces. And your party does not need to apply for this one because it's all a big ruse by the Republicans or Democrats who win, lose elections. You can see where things go. We talked about this in some quick hits over the weekend about the way that essentially the parties are playing this thing up for the better for them and the worse for the other party. It's what you do. You take a disaster, you take all the credit for you can and put the blame on other folks instead of taking care of people who need to be taken care of, which should be issue number 1 with Helene and, of course, with Milton coming behind its wake. Let's go to headline number 3 this morning. And Donald Glover is out there having to speak out about his Childish Gambino tour. One of the most amazing things about Donald Glover as a performer is he's a good artist, good rapper, good musician. But he had to cancel the rest of the Childish Gambino tour following a recent hospitalization. He first was just going to take some time off, but he realized that due to his health concerns, he actually needed surgery and he needed to step down. So dates in North America and Europe are now done. It's postponed. It's basically done. You can get your money back wherever you got your tickets from, so you'll take care of that. He needs time to heal and emphasize the seriousness of the recovery because it's a big deal. One thing that I'm learning now, and I probably have dealt with in the past, but definitely with some issues going right now, is recovery is important. If you need to take some downtime, take the downtime and don't try to blow it off. It's definitely important to make sure you get your recovery when things aren't going so great. So if you were a fan of Childish Gambino and was expecting this concert to happen, you'll get your money back. So don't worry about that. But we'll see when it gets back on the road for this tour and when it goes back on stage and screen for other movies. I don't believe he's coming back from Mr. and Mrs. Smith. I think the whole thing was they're going away and someone else is coming in. But that may be a bit of misinformation that's been out there as well. Sticking with entertainment and things that may or may not happen, let's talk about Sherlock, the series that's helmed by Benedict Cumberbatch and Martin Freeman. It has a future, says producer. It might come back. Now, we haven't seen the show in many, many years, and it's one of those very short lived series where it's a very short season, as they do for BBC series. But Sherlock, which starred Benjamin Cumberbatch and Martin Freeman, has a future, says their producer, Valerie Zuvertu, excuse me, so it has future. It hadn't been on air since 2017, but given the right conditions, they could make it happen. Now, no one said they actually put these conditions together. No one said they actually talked to Cumberbatch or Freeman, who are both doing fairly well in other things. Martin Freeman's got, I think he has some pieces coming up in the upcoming Thunderbolts movie now that his character has been freed from being a scroll or whatnot. And Benjamin Cumberbatch is just, doing his thing. We'll see what happens for these characters and for the series, very popular series called Sherlock. It's another version of Sherlock Holmes. BBC puts it on. We'll see if they'll put it on again. Right now, I guess that's 7 years past the last series. They only do 4-episode series, so it doesn't take much to get them back on the air. More bad news for me specifically and the news industry in general, and just the fact that reason why I can't get jobs doing quote unquote real news, as ABC was hit with 75 layoffs, ABC News, I should say, as corporate parent Disney slashes more cost. This came out sort of latest last week, so it's a little bit of a delayed story, but this is one that still got plenty of engagement by the time we put it up there on Friday, and it lasted the weekend for you guys and eyeballs. ABC News hit with 75 layoffs as part of the cost-cutting measures by its parent company, Disney. Cuts affect both ABC News' division and local TV stations. Latest round of layoffs comes with a broader restructuring across Disney itself. Recently let go of 300 employees across the board there. That included legal, finance, and HR. This is going specifically for talent these days. Layoffs are part of Disney's ongoing effort to streamline operations, reduce expenses. In this day and age, we talked about this one. Talk about this one in a roundabout way for some stuff on the weekend, and essentially how the news networks, the news business, the business model is broken. It's just not working, period. And because of that, there's not as many jobs, not as many things to do. There's not many chances for people like me to sort of be meandering and mediocre in the background to either get better or take up space for things going forward, because things need to take up space. Everything must be important. Everything must be paid for. Every dime must be accounted for. Oh, I know what it was. It's talking about Hoda Kotb not taking the pay cut from NBC News, but then saying, well, I'm not going to do today's show. I'm not going to do the morning show because money. There's less money in all these things, and less bodies is less money. So the work gets done less or not as good. And unfortunately, that usually means the misinformation type news, the bad news, will be able to meander and do more better or more worse in its coverage than the good news or the goodly, well-produced news. Take a moment to pause in a minute in the news stories. We've gone through 5 stories so far. I think I missed. Oh no, yeah, we got right. There were 5 stories so far, 5 more to go, and we're going to get you those in just a moment. But first, I want to give you a chance to get to know us. Like, share, and subscribe to our podcasts or videos, things we do, so we have more people in the queue for conversations. I got a comment in one of the responses, one of the videos of the weekend about this ain't a conversation, it's a monologue. Well, obviously it's a monologue if I'm not actually talking to you here in these stories. I'm doing this live and just give rundowns, whatever. Who's going to be up at 5:30 in the morning and have conversations? Getting some actual guests to do this thing is hard. So what I need for you to do is like what you're seeing. If you like what I'm seeing, monologue or conversation, let us know so I know which stories are hitting well and which stories aren't. Share this conversational topic stories. Let's see what I did there. With other folks who are into conversational news stories. Now, the Premise is these are conversational news stories. This is not an actual talk back and forth because talking to myself would be really weird. But me asking you to like, share, and subscribe is also a little bit odd as well. So there you go. Oh, subscribe to the podcast, subscribe to the video, subscribe to us in our pod feeds, wherever you get your pods from. Subscribe to our email newsletter. Look for our go to website, subscribe there. Check us out and see what's going on. Like, share, and subscribe so we have more people engaged with the news stories. That's how the conversation works. And we have the more conversational stories to present to you. Back to news. And this story, extremely conversational. Anne Hathaway is back, and she is back, coming back as the princess for Princess Diaries, as Princess Diaries 3 is confirmed with a shut up announcement. That's my only impression I can do today. Anne Hathaway has officially confirmed the return of Princess Diaries 3 in a playful announcement. She shared a video in which she held up 3 fingers and said, "Shut up." The confirmation excited fans have been eagerly awaiting news of the sequel, which I believe may be like decades past, reaffirming her role as Mia Thermopolis, and Adele Lim is going to direct this new movie. So for those of you who love some Princess Diary or just loves Anne Hathaway, she is back being the princess, the ugly duckling that turned into a swan, and is coming to very soon to all of us again. Sticking in movie news, not a great showing for Joker Folie à Deux, which underperformed in the box office and got a D CinemaScore rating. So basically, nobody really liked it. Now, I'm not going to spoil anything, but it basically had a nice little roundup, nice little wrap up, but offered up a tease of things to come, of expanding characters, expanding storylines. But it underperformed for the weekend it opened, earning only $40 million in the opening weekend, a big drop from expectations. Had a budget about $190 million, so it hadn't made up its money back, and may take a while to do that at this pace. Poor performance being compared to movies like Morbius, which was the worst movie at all time, and now people are saying this one, the worst comic book movie ever. Well, technically, it's not really following the comic book stylings. Morbius didn't really either, but essentially this Elseworld sort of Jokerish person, and some people didn't like it, even with the Lady Gaga hype for it and the whole musical scene in this one. Negative audience reception, including a Rotten Tomatoes score of 33%, contributed to the film's lackluster box office results. Hype is one thing. The reality is what it is. If you remember back in the day, everybody was hyped for Snakes on a Plane. I went to see it opening weekend to empty theaters, and I don't think it ever made its money back. It's still a cult classic, but it's a cult classic because of Netflix. Let's move on to story number 8. Going into politics and conversation, if you will. Number 8 has a headline with Trump returns to site of Pennsylvania assassination attempt for major swing state rally. You're watching the video, you see the picture, and you see crowd size. This is the crowd gathering for prepping for the actual Trump rally, and this is a pretty big crowd that was set up for this one. As they actually expanded the perimeter. They made more space because they knew more people were coming to see this thing, and they made a big spectacle out of this one. So give him his props for crowd size on this one. But Donald Trump came back to Butler, Pennsylvania, scene of the crime, literally, where the assassination attempt happened in July, held a major rally rolling up towards the election, 29 days as of today. Location had a lot of extra security and extra upgrades because of last time. And Trump used the event to organize his folks and energize the crowd in a crucial swing state. Now, it did have some bits of somberness to it, but then it went to a regular old crazy Trump rally where he called, I believe he called Biden, he thought was mentally impaired, still smarter than Harris, and on things like that. No talk about the dogs and the cats, I don't believe, but it was a pretty big rally for Donald Trump, going back to the scene and doing what he can to put people out as we prepare for voting in the election coming in 29 days. With that, we transition to story number 9, which is Kamala Harris using her platform in some new ways, and Kamala Harris specifically going on the Call Her Daddy podcast to slam Donald Trump on his abortion claims. Now, Harris appeared on Alex Cooper's podcast, and it went out on the air, went out on the internet webs yesterday on Sunday. So you see clips of it all over the place right now. She discussed pertinent issues in the upcoming elections, which were particularly voted towards women. Now, Harris basically Cooper told Harris at the beginning of the podcast, she had a big list of things to talk about, just the whole wide range of stuff for the election. But she focused on the things her audience would care about, which were reproductive rights. problems facing women, things like that. So it could have went on fracking, could have went on the migrants, things like that. But she focused mostly on women's things for the podcast because she's a podcast for women. It may have started off as a Bleacher Report or one of those things like that, and kind of the crass kind of thing. But it's basically a women's podcast, sort of from a man's sort of perspective. And she did not hold back on Kamala Harris. She gave her what she gave her, and Kamala Harris gave back, and so it's a pretty good exchange. Harris will also be on the Late Show with Stephen Colbert sometime this week as well. She's doing some other newer type reflective audience and stuff to try to get out there and show that she's hip, she's cool, she can be a part of the new stuff. Now, the way people are reaching folks, of course, one thing that did sort of stand out in this podcast in particular was backlash against Alex Cooper. Basically, the audience that she has, are calling it propaganda, calling it fake, calling it, her just trying to sell Kamala Harris, where when Donald Trump goes on to a podcast, which is usually guy-based and just sort of, testosterone and things like that, or severely right-wing, everybody hails that host as, a genius for talking to a guy like Trump. Cooper got jeers for talking to a lady like Harris. Your mileage may vary on those. Finally, it's Taylor Swift time. And this is a kind of a bittersweet one because Taylor Swift had two headlines this week. This one that we're talking about and one that came in later, but was still fairly impactful, where Taylor Swift was talking about her being a billionaire, talking about her being a young person making money and having her control over the music industry. But we're going to talk about her Svengali role of being over the NFL, how she rules that with an iron fist and just mesmerism, I guess. Just like, you are in my power. You will do whatever. You will give my man a touchdown or something like that. The headline for story number 10, majority of NFL players polled say Taylor Swift appearance in Travis Kelce's games is good for the league. Now, a recent poll by 102 NFL players, not really majority, but majority of those polled, 72.5% believe that Taylor Swift's appearance at the Kansas City Chiefs games to support her man, Travis Kelce, are beneficial to the league. The poll highlighted that most players see her presence as bringing positive attention and increased visibility to the sport. Only a small percentage, about 4.9%, say it's negative. It's just straight up bad. Swift's presence has drawn significant media coverage and fan engagement, which many players feel contributes to the overall excitement of the growth of the NFL. As you know, Travis Kelce in many circles known as Taylor Swift's boyfriend and a guy that plays football really good, as opposed to, two-time Super Bowl champion and all this stuff like that. It's a thing. It's a thing. So we're talking about Taylor Swift being Travis Kelce's boyfriend. Yes. We're talking about Taylor Swift having an impact on the NFL. Yes. We're not talking about her being a billionaire, which we can talk about best, I guess, anytime we want to, because she'll still be a billionaire even when Travis Kelce is gone. Let's talk about the teaser story for the day. Let's talk about how we get the stories in for the Conversation Project, how we make things happen, how things work around here, if you will. Our teaser story is a story that we produce stories all the time. We produce stories every 50 minutes for the Conversation Project. And the teaser story is a story that we're hyping up right now that you could vote on, you can talk about, you can give us some hits up whether you want to actually use this in tomorrow's episode. So the headline for teaser story, Cowboys Jalen Tolbert sprained his nuts, that's a quote, on play before game-winning touchdown versus Steelers. The Cowboys and Steelers finally got a chance to play last night after about an hour or so game delay. So I didn't watch any of it because it started later than it needed to be for me. And basically I went to bed without any of it. Cowboys got the win yesterday and they needed it. But you want to go deeper into the story of how they got that game-winning touchdown, you've got to vote it up. You've got to get some work in. What do we do for these votes? You go to our feeds on Facebook and X and Threads. You let us know what stories are engaging, and we put them up there if we find them as being engaging. Today, we gave you 10 stories. Those 10 stories came from top 30 or so stories from the weekend. We get about 90 stories in a full day. So we had a lot of stories to pull from. And for the rest of the week, Tuesday through Friday, 8 stories in the queue every day from the top 15 or so over the past day story. Like I said, 30 in about a span of a day. So you just go to our feeds on Facebook, facebook.com/This Is Conversation Project, x.com/th_conversation, and threads.net/@This Is Conversation, and engage in the stories. Click the like thing in Facebook. You can like, love, hate, do the little scrunchy face, whatever. Click the emoji that fits your joy for this. Also engage in it with your comments and share it with other folks. More engagement, literally the more engagement the story gets, the better chance of talking about it in the next iteration. So if you want to talk about the Cowboys and spraining nuts, It's all up to you. On Friday, we talked about, or we teased, the student loan cancellation by Biden be put on hold again. That one made it into the range. We didn't pick for it. It was something that was considered. This is one that's going to hold for a bit because if you, like me, you're getting emails about getting back on your student loan payments. This thing ain't over quite yet. Let's talk about our sponsor for today. Our spotlight sponsor is Blinkist. The Blinkist app is the best way to catch up on books. So if you ever feel like you never have enough time to read all the books on your list, Blinkist can help you gain key insights. That's a stutter there. Over 6,500 best-selling nonfiction books, and they're growing them every single day. Every week they're adding more books to it, and you can read a book. 15 minutes, full insights of what's going on. They condense books into bite-sized summaries they call blinks that are perfect for people to go. You can listen to them in audio form. You can read them as you want to. So if you're taking a break or winding down or on your commute, I listen to one on the way to work every single day. And as I go to bed, before I go to bed every single night. So I get 2 books in a day using Blinkist. And it's there. Anytime, anywhere, learn more stuff from Blinkist. From personal development books to science, business, history, Blinkist has something for everyone. And audio and text options, you can read or listen to key topics anytime you want to. They also have a 60% discount on premium subscriptions right now. So check it out. Now's the time to join in. Plus, they have the Blinkist Spaces feature where if you have the Blinkist app, you can share your blinks with other people and do like book club stuff on the blinks. And only one person has to pay for it. More and many people can share into the spaces as allowed. So use our link because with that 6% discount, you still get that. We get a small commission for you stepping in at using our door, using our link by going to this is a conversationproject.com/Blinkist. This is a conversationproject.com/Blinkist, Blinkist. Join Blinkist today and get caught up on all the books that you've been missing on, because all the nonfiction books and autobiographies that you think you can't get down, they probably got them or they're adding them as we speak. They're adding books all the time. So check it out. Check out the Blinkist app. Let's go to the Conversation Project. Or technically you're at the Conversation Project. Let's go to the talk, promotion, the chit chat about the Conversation Project very quickly. The Conversation Project lives online at this. It's conversationproject.com. That is our online home. We've said that a few times, and you can email us as well at the conversationinbox@gmail.com. Why would you do either of those things? Visit the website or email us, because we need your input. We need you to go up on our website and do all the calls to actions that are there. So visit more sponsors, consider being a partner, check out on past episodes and kind of view how we're doing, how we're growing, how we're gaining. Sign up for the newsletter, for the email newsletter, and do all those great things for us because we need engagement, and for you because you'll get more out of it. Email us with what you think we're doing right or wrong so we can do more right stuff and less wrong stuff. Growth is what we're having. And as I said earlier, there was a comment about this not being conversations, being a monologue. Obviously, while this is produced live, in the mornings, it's live because it's the best time to get it recorded. So it's out there. There's nobody out there chatting and commenting, going back and forth. So there's not much really way for a commenter. This is not your normal, some wacky guy just yelling at stories and having people respond back with, yeah, that's wacky. No, this is really meant to be a news aggregator show that tells you what stories are worth talking about, and you can take them along your day. And of course, let us know what stories are next that come in there. So do all the things we need you to do to help us do the things we can do and have more things going on. Also, in just a moment, we're going to clip this and go to the other show, the things you might ought to know, the fun stuff, if you will. We split up the birthdays and the history lesson and the fun stuff to celebrate, to make shorter stuff easier to digest. That's happening in a few moments, so stick around with that one. But go to our website. This is conversationproject.com and find out more episodes of this one. Go back to these things. And of course, see our origin story, see how we do this, and see the actual value that we give you for being a part of the Conversation Project, being a part of the fam. And with that, wrapping it up for today, we are done for this Monday, the 7th of October, 2024. I am Jacob Payne. Thank you so much for being with us for Conversation Project, however you join us, whether you're watching it live with me as we're wrapping this thing about 6 in the morning Central Time on Monday, or if you're watching it down the line later Monday or anytime in the future. Thank you so much for taking the time to get into the news with us. Comment whenever you watch it to where you are and why you enjoy it or why you didn't enjoy it. Tell me that I'm telling me I'm boring. Sure, do that. Tell me this is not much of conversation. It's really a monologue, and I'll do the same explanation. It's conversational topics, not so much an actual conversation. There's a big blue box to my left that I'm not talking to because I'm talking to you. There it goes. In the meantime, Love you guys so much. Consider partnerships, consider more sponsors, and just consider liking, subscribing, and sharing this with other folks. We'll do this again come tomorrow with 8 stories for tomorrow, and you have to make us tell us what to talk about. So go to our feeds. Every 50 minutes or so, we'll have a new article. If you like it, engage in it. If you don't like it, ignore it. Or if you like it, engage in it well. We talk about articles you may not like so well because it's about engagement. Let's prep for tomorrow. Great Monday, great week ahead. Stick around for the things you might ought to know coming right after this one if you're watching this live, or it's in your feed already. So check it out, check it out, check it out.